slides are mostly the same as last week's session. So if you want to like hear the more like in-depth coverage of that, you can like go and like watch the recording for that. But for this week, yeah, we'll go ahead and kind of walk through those really quickly, kind of talk about like what our team suggests for running a successful Flint pilot. And then we have like a bunch of people on the call here today who are going to share their own experiences and their own suggestions as well. Yeah, so I'm gonna go through the icebreaking news, which is also the same as last week, really quickly. And then I'll talk through initial pilot structure that we recommend, how to continue to support and expand usage. And then, like I said, we'll have a bunch of shareouts from various people on the call here today and hear things that went well for them, things that they want to improve or continue doing. And yeah, as always, the recording will be available later. Questions are welcome. We also have Xander on the call here today, who is our head of business development. So if you have any questions that are specific to sales and like purchasing and all of that jazz, he is here to answer those as well.
Appreciate that intro, Lulu.
Great. Okie dokie. So for the icebreaking news, what I was kind of looking at for this session was the comparison of like where sentiment around AI in schools was a year ago or 2 years ago in 2023, and then where it is now and what that sort of means for as people are integrating AI into their own institutions. So from this artificial intelligence report from K-12 private and independent schools, what we were seeing back in 2024 was that a lot of schools were like offering AI education, and they admitted to viewing AI education as a top priority for students. But only like a third of them, a little less than a third, had actually established any sort of group to look at what that could look like. And from our point of view, we were seeing that those were like the numbers from 2024. And from our point of view, what our team was getting asked was like, why should we use AI? What does AI tutoring even mean? Like a lot of these questions about kind of not the why, or kind of the why rather than the how. And going into this year and like throughout this year, I'm sure Xander can attest to this, but there's been a lot more questions about like how much does it cost? How does Flint specifically differ from other platforms? Because now there's a lot of tools that are options for schools to use now compared to like a year or two ago. And also, how do we try it? How do we get started? So from our perspective, this is like a really good thing to see. Like from a year ago, there was not that much exploration happening. And now, just based on the questions that we're getting when we're talking to prospective schools, there's a lot more exploration happening, and people are really trying to push the envelope of what AI can do for schools. Yeah, go ahead, Xander.
And one more question I might throw in there on the far side of this graph, Lulu, is a lot of schools are now asking, who is this for? So if you go back to 2023, it was kind of everyone was rolling out all these tools specifically focused on the teacher. But now we're seeing a real segmentation and focus on not only teacher-focused tools, but also student-focused tools and admin-focused tools. So another question that I'm hearing consistently on all of these demos is not only how does this compare to other platforms, how does this compare to other products, but who is this specifically for? Because some schools might only want a teacher-focused tool. Some schools maybe only want a student-focused tool. Obviously, Flint does both, but just in the sake of transparency, a lot of these conversations I have, folks don't always understand exactly who Flint is for, as well as a lot of these other products that are available as well. So,
Very true. Thank you, Xander. Yeah. I guess anyone else have any thoughts on this sort of trend before I move on to like talking about pilot structures and stuff?
I could echo what you were talking about. We just did a whole staff survey here at Chinese International School and seeing how comfortable people were using the tools. And so there's been the comfort has grown. People are comfortable, a lot more comfortable using these tools. And now they're looking at how they can support students with it rather than just supporting their own teaching. So just, yeah, some of the same data points that you were sharing.
Nice. Awesome. Oh, Not sure if Albert was talking to us or someone else in the room, but cool. Yeah. Yeah, fully agreed. I think like the focus is shifting and also the applications are shifting. And I'm sure for a lot of the people who are in the room right now, it's kind of your job to open the faculty's eyes to what those new applications can be. So with that being said, how to set up an initial pilot is a question that our team gets asked a lot, and how you can really make it so that people at your school can really like be introduced to an AI tool well, because there's still like a lot of skepticism. There's a lot of, you know, cost benefit analysis, I would say, that teachers have to make because they have limited time. So when it comes to setting up this initial pilot, what sorts of things should you be considering, and like how should that look? We will try to answer this here, but kind of again, we're also only a couple years into this, right? So I'm sure these things will like further develop, but this is what we're observing right now. Really quickly to level set, if you're not familiar with Flint yet, as Xander was kind of touching on, we do AI for both teachers and students. And the way that all of that interaction looks in the product is that we have chats and activities. And so chats for teachers or for students are these sorts of one-on-one conversations. It's kind of like you're talking to ChatGPT. It will behave differently for teachers versus students, where it's more helpful to teachers and will like readily write things and generate answers. And then for students, it has more guardrails in place and acts more like a responsible tutor. And then activities are the experiences that teachers can design for their own students. And so here you can like create these bots almost that take on a certain goal or a certain persona, and then that can be shared with students for them to interact with. Yeah, trying to keep that as succinct as possible, but that's like generally what Flint does.
You nailed it, Lulu.
Thanks. Yeah, so how to set up a pilot? It's a really big question, honestly, and from what we've seen at least, this is like the bare minimum of what you need. So really, you just need like 5 to 6 teachers. But as we kind of talked about last week, it's really important that these teachers are people who are willing to tinker, willing to play around, willing to kind of critique, explore, and learn from their experiences here. And overall, if you can get a diversity of people in from different subjects, teaching different grade levels, and like also some different sentiments towards AI, that can really like create a environment within your pilot group that asks a lot of questions and like talks a lot about the tough considerations that you might need to have when adopting an AI tool. Yeah, and then beyond that initial group that you put together, whether it be just 5 to 6 or more teachers, it's important that you know, give them a basic intro of what Flint is and how it can be valuable. A lot of AI tools, or there's a lot of AI tools out there, and your teachers might have like a set mindset of what AI does in a classroom. So it's like important to show them like, hey, Flint does that and a lot more, and this is kind of how it can look. And then from what I've seen, at least, open communication within the group is also really important. And I've seen that take on a bunch of different methods. Like maybe you have time for regular meetings, and like that can be your way of communicating with the group. But I've also seen async ways of like establishing a group chat for everyone to share their findings as they play around with it, or even like a shared Google Doc where teachers like throw in their ideas and throw in their learnings from it. Yeah, and then the third point there is dedicated time to play along with training. I think a lot of the like pilot leaders that I've talked to who have been like, something that I wish that we had done was really just given the teachers more time to play around with it, because there's a lot of, you know, knowledge transfer that can happen during a training, but really a lot of the aha moments come from when the teachers actually try it out and see how it responds to them, or see how they can actually use it in their own specific use cases. So if you can add that dedicated time to like actually play with the tool in your meetings or in your trainings, that would be amazing. Yeah. Cool. Okay. Any questions about this step? Anything to add either? Yeah, Lee, go ahead.
I know you guys are quite expert using this service, but in Korea, I'm working in Korea. The more popular services are Magic School and what is it? That's tip on my tongue. Anyway, I just took a look around all your services, and it looks like a bit the famous AI tool Mizo and something else. Even though I'm quite new for this service, but I'm very techy teacher. I lead teachers who are really good at using technology and AI tools. My main question is, what is the huge difference in your strengths compared to Magic School and some other AI tools for students and teachers?
That's a great question, Lee. And we actually have a full comparison page on our website where you can actually go and compare Flint side by side to some of the other top tools that we have in the market, including Magic School. So if you have some time after this meeting, I definitely recommend going to check out our comparison page, and I'll definitely drop that link in here for you as well. Oh, Lulu's already on.
I'll do separate. Okay, thank you.
Yep, no problem.
Yeah. Dion, did you want to speak to that question? I feel like we can, but you all are also free to. You've seen it in practice.
Yeah. Well, I can speak a little bit to it. I'm also in Korea, Lee, so I can say that, there's a lot of tools that are being used here. We started actually when we started looking at tools, we actually subscribed to a different tool originally. It was School AI, which was also more student facing, but it wasn't being adopted that much by teachers as much as we had hoped. So then we started piloting Flint from January of this year. And the idea was to compare the two side by side. And we had already established an AI task force the previous year. So we had across our two campuses, our US campus and Korea campus, about 35 teachers who were looking at different tools. It was more of an R&D period, I would say, for the first year of, from 23 to 24 until now. And then after looking at Flint and comparing it, it was unanimous among all teachers that they much preferred this platform. I think the integration with our SIS, which is Veracross, being able to pull in our classes and actually link students to their classes. And when teachers log in, seeing that they're already, tied to their students, makes it a lot easier. And also the data that you can get to support students has been really powerful. So for me, that's why we ended up, after the pilot, moving to Flint for August and not renewing the other platform that we had, mainly for that reason, because of its ability to, it was far more intuitive. Our language teachers really love Flint, especially our Spanish and Korean teachers. They found that the interaction, the voices, and being able to create like live tutors was really powerful. So these were, I would say, our strongest early adopters. But now we're really shifting towards making it so that now we know we're committed to Flint, of really pushing so that all teachers get more and more training throughout next year. But yeah, that's been our experience. If you want to connect to learn more about us in Korea and how we've been using it, I'd be happy to.
Wow, amazing answer. That was awesome.
Yeah, thanks, Dion. Dalton, did you also want to speak to any of that?
Oh, sure. We also started with Magic School. Magic School came out really early, and it was a great tool for PD, I'd say, like dipping your toe in. There's all these activities that are pre-created, so you don't have to do a lot of prompting. And then we found because of that, it didn't adapt as well. And we also found the responses that we're getting from Magic School, they weren't as high quality as some of the ones we're getting from Flint. So Flint's using a really cutting edge LLM to power all their responses. And I could see when I was speaking to the engineers, I got to meet one of the people who was building it. he cares a lot about providing like quality responses to the students. So that was one of the reasons why we made that shift from Magic School to Flint. We found the teachers like the responses, that the students were getting better. We found that by Flint limiting its helpfulness to some students was really beneficial, because we don't want the students to outsource their thinking. We still want the students to be engaged in those critical thinking tasks. So we found, because of those reasons, the Flint was that the teachers at our school are really enjoying using Flint. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, thanks, Dalton. Yeah, and I think like just to kind of summarize and like emphasize something that both Dalton and Young kind of got to is like Flint is really for if you want to use AI with students and teachers. If you want to just use AI with teachers, then like I think there's a lot of options that you can consider that might not be as like built out as Flint, you know. Like in Flint, there are teacher tools and like the options to really help teachers with their own tasks. But I think really what Flint is like, what's Flint's strongest offering is the ability for teachers to create activities that interact with students. Yeah. Sorry, we like got a little bit off topic there, but I think that was a really important question to both ask and answer. So thank you for that. Yeah, cool. The next question that we get asked a lot is like, how long should a pilot be? And really this like, we've seen this vary a lot from school to school, but I'm sure Xander can like speak more to this if you guys have specific questions. But overall, we see like 30 days of rolling out to a whole school if everyone's using it and like you actually have like managed to be able to train teachers and like have them try it out. That should be enough to tell you whether or not Flint is a right fit for your community. Sometimes we see like schools wanting to say like, oh, let's pilot for a year or like a semester or something like that. But actually we see that sometimes this time constraint of like, oh, we have a month with this can kind of help teachers to like actually try it out with like some more haste, I guess. And usually within 2 weeks of like consistent usage, honestly, that'll give you a lot of signs for whether or not your teachers actually love it, and you should like have the conversation about whether or not Flint should be adopted at your school. Yeah, but I just put like number 3 there as like a little asterisk almost, but like, you know, of course, school breaks and course structures can also impact this timeline. If you're trying to roll it out like in the last month of school, that might be a lot more difficult than the first month of school. So those are some things to keep in mind too.
Yeah, and chiming in there, Lulu, of course, seasonality and choosing when to launch a pilot is of course something that you should take into account. Like you said, doing a pilot in July versus doing a pilot during the school year is going to look totally different. But 30 days is usually when you guys are able to determine, okay, this is what average usage looks like. This is where we're getting buy-in. This is where we're not getting buy-in. Maybe we've got a particular department or a part of the leadership team that is struggling with adoption. How can we support them? The first couple of weeks are usually really critical in terms of being able to understand and identify that feedback. And then from there, being able to take action. After you get outside of this 30-day timeline, once you get into 90 days, 6 months, it's really kind of just, it's delaying the problem and kind of kicking it to the curb. So this is why we generally recommend a pilot period of about 30 days, because that's really the sweet spot in terms of getting folks to commit to trying out a tool and also getting feedback and reception from overall usage.
Exactly. Yeah. And I do think like part of honestly what has had part of why Flint has taken off in a bunch of schools is through word of mouth. And really like if you're having all of your teachers try it out at the same time and like get that initial excitement at the same time, we see that really drives the word of mouth a lot quicker and a lot more sustainably than like if you have like teachers kind of using it here and there over the course of a longer period. Yeah. Cool. And then I have the slide on like what should the goals of the pilot be? Like what sort of things are you trying to find out from trying out Flint like this? So usually what we see in like the schools that eventually have like really strong usage is that there's like 2 to 3 teachers who get really excited about Flint and are using it consistently, and especially using activities consistently. Yeah, and really what you need is to just like get 2 to 3 teachers who have buy-in and like get them to each use like 1 or 2 lessons with their students, and then that'll give you enough signals, I think, to see if Flint is going to be helpful for your teachers and your students. And then, of course, like other goals for the pilot might vary based on what your school's goals are and like where you are in your AI journey. Are you still like establishing an AI policy? Are you still just wanting to like try things out and see like how it fits into teaching practice? Yeah, we do have some resources on our website for these things. We have like an AI policy library and then also a bunch of use cases and case studies listed, which I think are at the end of these slides. But yeah, you can read into those if you like want to gather more insights into how different schools are using Flint and also what they've shaped their policies to look like. But yeah, I do think like the goals of a pilot for any sort of tool should also play into the broader goals that your school has for how they want to implement AI and what that should look like for both teachers and students. Yeah. And oh, one thing, the little note that I have on the side here, when you're trying to get those 2 to 3 teachers to get buy-in, we've even seen some pilot leaders like actually create activities for teachers to use. And really the goal here is like lowering that time to value, as we call it in sales. But essentially helping those teachers to really get something that they can just go ahead and try out. And I think sometimes like the like not really understanding AI or not really knowing how to build something in Flint can be kind of scary, or even just like feel like too much time to invest. But really, once they see like how easy it is for someone to create something that they can use in their school and or in their class and brings them value, that's where a lot of teachers can also get really excited about it. Yeah, go ahead, Dia. Oh, you're still muted.
Sorry about that. Building on what Xander was saying at the beginning about sort of, when you're looking at these kinds of products, of thinking about who do you want this product to be for. I think, and you're talking about the policies, I think those conversations are really important to have before you look at these kinds of products, because I think if a school is really going to embrace the idea that they want to focus on student learning and embracing personalization and the power that that brings, then you're ready for a platform like Flint. If schools are still struggling with like, should students have access to AI, then I think you're not ready to really embrace these kinds of tools, but ultimately the reason we went with a tool like this, because we always believed that we wanted to have an AI tool that was accessible to students. Many aren't, unfortunately, but also like to empower the ability for students to use to enhance their learning, but also for teachers to get the data that they need to help those students. So, I think, yeah, you do need to have those conversations and have those decisions, because really some schools struggle. Do we need to have an AI policy? And to me, I think it's just part of academic integrity. It's about ethical use, and once you've agreed on that, then you can start opening it up to students.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Yeah, and that's also why. Oh,
Sorry.
go ahead, Cor.
So the other thing it's really good what we're doing is while we asking students to use Flint, and meanwhile we give them the scale of AI use in the class and bring this into the practice in the class. So they do have kind of, let's say, a safe platform they can use, and they also have this kind of like a framework, they know how to do it. And next year we'll bring this into more like a depth level, and students gonna just plan out what they're gonna do before at the beginning of the assignment, and then they can use Flint to go through the assignment, and they're going to have reflection on how they actually went through the whole assignment with kind of like support of AI, how they use AI, and then they come back having reflection. So hopefully this kind of like a full circle round could really support students and see how they actually use AI and they plan it out. Just use it more mindfully.
Very true. Yeah. Alfred?
Yeah, thank you. About the ethics of using AI. Now, in the international schools, both the IB and the IGCSE guidance is that it is okay to use it, especially when it's supervised. What's not often mentioned, especially by people based in the US, is that the EU AI Act has been passed, and the first fines have been meted out also to individual teachers and lecturers. So if you use a tool that is not transparent in how it evaluates students, you are personally liable if you are based in Europe. Now, outside Europe, that is a bit less, urgent. But I've been trying to use that fact to kind of wake up my principal. But so far, deep slumber. Yeah, no awareness.
No, I believe in you though. It does just take some time and patience. Yeah. Oh, and Rose was asking if anyone tried the AI literacy course. I won't go into it too deeply, but we have like released level 1 of 3, and we did have a call like this about the first level, so I can send you the recording to that if you want to watch it. I know our team got a lot of good feedback on that, and we've like implemented some of it. But yeah, if you try it out and have more feedback, please let us know. Yeah. Okay, so, and then I think I have like 2 more slides here. The question of like what metrics to look at when you're doing the pilot and like how can you evaluate how it's going. Honestly, from all of the like 200 something schools that have piloted and used Flint, it's really honestly very anecdotal. At the beginning, because you'll have like a couple teachers and like they'll either tell you like, oh, I like don't think this will be important to my students, or they'll tell you like, wow, this is completely changing how my students are learning or like how I'm interacting with my students. And I think it's really important to like listen in on or listen to those teachers and how they feel it's impacting their classrooms, because if you can hear the excitement in their voice, then I think it's also pretty clear that that excitement will spread to other teachers and that they will also, those teachers themselves will continue to use Flint and like push how that looks. But I did want to share like some numbers with you all, so that's on like the next slide. But overall, if you're the admin of your workspace, you can like look at the analytics, see usage over time. You can also see like what subjects are using Flint more often. So kind of like what Xander was mentioning earlier about like finding those gaps in where your pilot group maybe isn't exploring. You can use the analytics to kind of look at that. And I'll demonstrate that really quickly here. But yeah, if you go to the analytics of your workspace, you can see what sorts of activities have been made by which subjects. So like here, like I can see like, okay, math, English, science doing pretty well. Maybe in this workspace, we should like reintroduce Flint to the world language teachers and the social study teachers, something like that. Yeah, and there's like some other data in here as well where you can like see who is using Flint the most if you want to like connect with them and see like what has really gotten them to be really excited about it. Yeah, and you can always ask Flint here more questions actually about your analytics too. Yeah. But yes, word of mouth is key. So any way that you can amplify the voice of those teachers that get really excited is really important. I've seen some schools do like swag giveaways or even just like highlighting them in like the teacher newsletter, kind of like star teacher situation. Bunch of options there as well for encouraging that sort of sharing. Yeah. So I dug into the Flint archives and looked at usage over the past 6 months for like the top 100 schools using Flint. And these are kind of the numbers that came out of it. So if you're looking over like a 6-month period, we're seeing about like 33.5 activities per every 100 users at schools and like 400 something chats per 100 users. So if you are running like a 1 month pilot, what that means is that you probably want your teachers trying out at least like 5 to 6 different kinds of activities. And then if those activities are successful and being used a lot, then you'll see like 70 to 80 chats created by teachers and students. Yeah, just note here, like the chats are both like activity or chats within specific activities, but also the one-off chats that I kind of touched on earlier, where teachers and students might just be using AI for their own purposes. Yeah, so that's like kind of what consistent usage looks like from our like top schools. And of course, not saying like if you don't reach these numbers, then you should never use Flint, but this might be like a good number to strive for, to know that you've like fully vetted and like tried Flint out with your pilot group. Because that's
piggybacking off that, Lulu, if you're going through a pilot right now, like playing the role of a school that's going through a pilot right now, and you're in your workspace and you're seeing numbers greater than these averages, to me, that is a huge indication and a huge signal of moving forward and adopting Flint at scale. Just because, like you called out, right? If you're above the average, then it probably makes sense to move forward. Now, does that mean that if you have a pilot going and these numbers are lower than what you're showing here on the screen, does that mean that Flint is not for you? Not necessarily. That might just mean that you're struggling to get buy-in from some of the folks on your team, and then that's the next step that you need to take internally.
Yeah. Exactly. Any questions on this part before we move on to the continuing usage section? Yeah, go ahead, Albert.
Yeah, I haven't seen those analytics yet, but I wanted to point out that you can do your own analytics for a particular activity. If you download the CSV file and you upload it in something like Gemini 2.5. For example, I asked how often my students were asking for assistance from Flint, and it turned out that the younger ones did that less than the older ones. So it kind of gives you immediate feedback, so that your next activity you can say, hey guys, don't forget to ask for help. And I also looked at when they were doing exam practice questions, how helpful the suggestions from Flint were. So how many students would eventually get the right answer after initially having the wrong one. So you can very easily get your own analytics to look at a particular activity. Thank you.
Yeah, that's really cool. I think one like common stream of thought that I'm seeing pop up more and more is like how to use AI to illuminate student thinking. And what we're really trying to do with Flint is like give you access to all those conversations, and like also give students, you know, that immediate feedback and push them to show more of like what they were thinking. And like Flint like is built to kind of ask them follow-up questions to help bring light to that. So it's really cool actually to hear how you've been leveraging AI and like the administrative side afterwards, and how to like get even more out of all of that data basically that Flint's providing you. Yeah, just to recap the chat a little bit. Users here does mean students and teachers. And yes, students under 13 are allowed to use Flint. We are fully GDPR and COP compliant. So yes, feel free to check out our security page that Xander linked there for more details on that. Cool, okay. I will kind of go quickly through this section because I do think like the people who have volunteered to share out will also kind of touch on these things. But when it comes to continuing usage, like during the pilot and also beyond, there are like a couple things that I think are very important. And we've kind of touched on this one before, but like fostering that sort of communication between you and your teachers and between teachers themselves, because, you know, AI is still something that I think all schools are trying to figure out. I don't think there's like a single school that I've met that has it perfectly figured out even. So really fostering that communication. Also, like as a school leader, if you are trying to get more buy-in for Flint, keeping Flint in mind when they bring up other pain points of theirs, if you think that it's something that AI can help them with. I've seen a lot of examples where, you know, the teacher might come to an ed tech director for help on something not specifically related to Flint, but then they realize that Flint can actually help them achieve what it was that they were struggling with. But yeah, if you can collaborate with teachers or pair them up together to work on new applications of AI, that I think has been like some of the more exciting bits of communication that have come out of Flint being adopted in schools. And then secondly, emphasizing support to your teachers. For a lot of them, AI is still like the Wild West. And I think when they see from their leadership that they have support in both using AI and also like exploring and trying new things with it, that has really encouraged a lot of teachers to actually try things out and do more with AI. Yeah, and of course, like our team is also here to support you all as well. So please reach out to us if you see problems come up or if you have any questions. Our team is really excited to hear about those because that also helps us to improve the product. And then I think this is kind of general, but like expanding the perceptions of what AI is for is really important. I know like we kind of talked about like Magic School earlier and like other tools like that that are very teacher facing. I think that has become a lot of the mainstream sort of content about AI, like how well it can support teachers in generating content and all that. But you know, what more can you do with AI and how can you push that boundary? I think is what we're seeing a lot of the really forward-thinking schools ask. And yeah, so there I would like suggest you kind of like check out our Flint updates. We're always like adding new things to the product that go beyond just like what the LLM it is that we're using. There's like other things that we're adding that can make Flint more useful for learning. And then yeah, you guys are already here, so great job. I think joining the Campfire sessions are a great way to learn. And then we also have like our community, which I'll have a link to later, where you can connect with educators beyond your own school so that you can continue to learn from other people and see what cool things they're trying out. Yeah, and then just some other ideas here, miscellaneous ideas, but from like the schools that I've seen that have had really good rollouts, we're seeing like that continuing communication, and then some of them are doing that through these recurring lunch and learns, where they will, you know, gather for lunch. It might only be like 20, 30 minutes, but then they can talk about what they're exploring or like even ask questions. And that's like a great way to foster that communication and also that support. Yeah, department meetings. I think someone mentioned in the chat earlier that they could use this for or within like a meeting with just their group. Yeah, we have the AI literacy stuff for teachers and students. The two courses there can also really help promote understanding, which I think is like the first step to fully understand, like being able to use AI in a positive way. Training students on creating activities. Some administrators have also just gone ahead and done that rather than like taking it step by step with training teachers first. That's also an option. And yeah, we're launching a swag store soon. I'm sure you all will hear when that is available. So that might also be an option if your teachers are super excited by that too. And then I linked two activity templates here for activities for teachers. Sometimes, you know, using is the best way to understand how something might act. So if the teacher is being the student, that could be a way for them to understand what value Flint might bring to their own classrooms. So the screenshot on the right here shows the using Flint template, but basically the teacher can be the student and learn how to use Flint and kind of walks through some of the key features. And then I also linked one specifically there for helping teachers lesson plan. So yeah, getting teachers to use it for themselves first can also be a way to get them more comfortable with using Flint with their students. Okay, yeah, and in general, to summarize, like it really takes some like patience and persistence, checking in with people a lot and like meaningfully integrating AI also just in general has so many moving parts, like the different literacy pieces, how you integrate that into policy. But overall, I would say the question that you should be asking yourself is, does Flint offer your school a means to fully explore the possibilities of AI that you want to? And will it grow with you as you grow? Because right now, I wouldn't say that there's any tool out there that's like a perfect fit for what the ideal of AI in education should be, but everyone's trying to figure it out. And so you would definitely want to be able to use a tool that doesn't restrict what your school is able to explore in that sort of arena. Cool. Okay, so now we're at the share out part. I did ask Dion, Dalton, Cora, and Albert to kind of share what their experiences have been like. Yeah, Dion, if you want to get started with kind of talking about like what the rollout looked like, what maybe you learned from it, and also what your school is planning on doing next, and to continue the adoption of Flint.
Yeah, I touched on it a little bit already about sort of where we were last year about rolling out another platform. I think it does help if you have a group of people together. We had the AI task force. It's a group of people who were volunteered to explore these tools, so that was very helpful in the beginning stages. When we did roll out the pilot from January, as an EdTech director, I think it's good for teachers to understand too that when you are exploring these tools from the teacher side, you need to consider the things like budgets and getting your ed tech team involved, or the leadership team involved, because by integrating Flint into our SIS and bringing those classes in, that made it a much more powerful experience. You can only really achieve that by having that buy-in from your technology team. From a technology side of things, there's always a lot of things that we have to consider: data privacy, data protection policies, and so forth. There's always a fear when people just go off and use random AI products with students, like getting students on ChatGPT and so forth, where they're not supposed to be legally on them, or uploading student information and getting data analytics and stuff on those kinds of tools. So with this project, that when we looked, the pilot, when we rolled it out, it was very intentional to compare it to the one that we were already using to make a decision by April. And the April decision was because of budgeting, that we needed to make a decision what we would go with for August. And what we did is we started a lot of sessions with teachers, very flexible sessions. So we had multiple sessions every week, and it allowed for small groups to come in. And so sometimes we were working with 1 or 2 people at a time, sometimes 4 or 5. But those people really were the source of getting some momentum. Especially, I mentioned with the language teachers, they all sort of adopted it very quickly. And that word of mouth really helped spread it to other teachers. Where I would like to have gone better is I'd like to have had more focus on departments rather than just randomly having people come in from different departments. That way we could have focused the conversations a bit more about Flint and math, or other subject areas. And but that being said, I think we had a fairly successful rollout. And next year, you mentioned a lot of these lunch and learns and these kinds of things. These are the kinds of things that we want to do, and we want to have teachers teaching teachers far more next year, so that now that people know that this is the official product we will have in the school, getting teachers to work with each other to show them the power of it in their own classrooms.
Yeah, awesome. And I love that you touched on teachers teaching teachers. Like, I feel this myself. I talk to a lot of teachers. I can show them like the ins and outs of the platforms, but really teachers are the ones in the classrooms understanding the whole dynamics and like what is best for their students. So I feel that it's really a lot more powerful when the teachers themselves are the ones that are showing their colleagues how to use Flint. Yeah, thanks, Dion. Yeah, Dalton and Cora, do you want to share a bit about how the rollout at CIS went?
Sure. Cora, do you want me to go first, and then
I
you
think
can...
Albert just sent a message. Albert wants to
Okay.
share first.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
So sorry. Yeah, go ahead, Albert.
I may have a student coming up or not, you never know. No, just very quickly that here at Nexus in Singapore, we're in very early stages, very similar experiences as you had. It started in the language teaching, and then we did an inventory last week and it showed that the kind of the virus, the Flint virus, was spreading with a lot of people adopting it here and there. We have a EdTech director whose main job is to actually boycott the adoption of educational technology. So we have a very chaotic internal process here. So the only thing we can do is kind of word of mouth and spreading it organically. I'll be leaving the school and joining a new school in August. So hopefully in the new school I'll have a bit more a chance to set up a bit more structured process. But I think it's an absolutely great tool. I just love it. I see a lot of applications also in adult education. I come from university teaching, so I'm hoping you can spread your wings. And one thing I like to do, for example, is set up simulations as a kind of a game. And Flint is great for that because it just gives you the three options. It assigns the points. So I'm also looking forward to seeing more use cases in the on the website because it's such a flexible tool. It is amazing. So thank you all for your input, and I may have to leave then soon. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Albert. Yeah, I think sorry about the sirens. Overall, like I've seen that the creativity that teachers can show when they're using Flint has really blown me away, at least. Anything from like creating games with Flint to like having Flint pretend to be the students and like the students have to teach Flint and like sometimes they make Flint act really stubborn, and really just having fun with it, I think is something to really encourage with the teachers. Because when the teachers are having fun, I think the students are also more likely to be having fun with it as well. But yeah, thanks, Albert. Yeah, Cora, Dalton, do you want to go ahead now?
Dalton, do you want to go ahead? Do you want me to? Sorry, we work in the same school, so.
I'm in primary. We found a lot of success with working with small groups, like everybody said. When you dig into Flint, you'll find that there's a lot of features that aren't available in other platforms, like their built-in calculator so that you can use it in a math class and be getting back accurate information for the students. So yeah, we found that across subjects, teachers found it very useful, and with those small groups, that it really spread throughout the school. Oh, I think Cora also mentioned this, but around report writing time, you'll see your analytics spike in our school because people found that it can be helpful when starting to write reports. All right, Cora, you're up.
Yeah, thank you, Dalton. So I work in secondary, but we'll work together to launch Flint. And I joined the school at the beginning of this school year. When I joined, I kind of heard a lot of noises, people mentioning about when you have AI platforms. So I find one thing that's really helpful is when there's a need, you launch it, it's actually people accept really well, especially Dalton mentioned about the report time. This is report season right now. I just checked the data. We have a lot of teachers writing reports on it. And so one thing we like Flint a lot in secondary, it's about academic integrity because you can pretty much track all of the students' kind of activities on it. So we know exactly what they're doing. And the other thing that we noticed recently, if you ask Flint to give you answer directly, which it cannot do it now. So so a lot of teachers feel this kind of like assurance for them. They know that the students won't cheat on this, and even they cheat on this, we can check. And also we have done all of the teaching teachers, lunch and learn. Recently, I found a lot of teachers are doing, like not us, a lot of teachers are doing lunch and learns and talking about Flint by themselves. Like Lulu, you mentioned, actually, if those kind of recommendation of Flint come from peers, it's way more impactful and powerful than we try to sell that. And so we found that a lot of teachers, they really like using that. And so far, the school totally has around 1,600 students, and our Flint user is 1,548, including teachers, except the reception. So Flint right now, one thing I found is really helpful. Thank you. One thing I found it's really helpful is we have shared vision. Everybody is on the same page. With teachers, with students, with us, with leadership team, everybody knows that Flint is the go-to official platform for students for learning. So we get the data with the students about what kind of the AI platforms, large language models they're using. Most of students are talking about they're using Flink, not inside the classroom, also outside the classroom. And they understand that maybe not super powerful giving them answers directly, but it can give them suggestions. So we use Flink as now it's like one of the regular resources they use it. And I also found at the beginning, like we have this mini sessions with individual teachers, and we have lunch and learns and departmental meetings. I did all of the departmental meetings rotation and talking to some of the teachers. A lot of times it takes time when when I shared it with teachers, some people were like, why am I using this? And now I found that some teachers, they were kind of pushed back a lot. Now they're one of the top users. They're using it because when it comes as needs, and they will use it, especially report season. I got a lot of my colleagues, they were like, I'm not quite sure about using this. When the report season comes up and they came to me, they were like, what would be the best tool for me to write reports? And so I was like, how about let's just using Flink? And after this, they were like, oh, this is actually quite powerful. I can see how I can use it in my classroom. And that's some of the teachers, that's how they started. We did all of the sessions, lunch and learn, and so we put in like a different display, like in the staff room. And I also, you guys shipped some of the stickers. So I saw a lot of teachers having stickers there. We're doing all of the swag thing. But I find one thing is quite helpful is everybody is on the same page. Nobody's gonna be like, I'm gonna do something else, but this, that. And so a lot of teachers during our pilot's time, a lot of teachers, they were not quite sure because they worry about this gonna be carried away after the pilots just finish. So we kind of assure everyone this is gonna going on for a while. You invest your time, you invest your energy, learn how to do this platform. Same as student, we want to continue keep this going. And so a lot of people feel this kind of trust there, and so they can go on. So I think it's pretty successful for our school, and a lot of teachers like this game-ish, like gamification, all of this. We did all different stuff, and it's just been going really well.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, and I think you mentioning like the shared vision, I think, of course, like I think you described it much better than I could, but I think also on top of that, having Flint as kind of a unifying language with which you can use with your teachers to talk about AI, and like what different applications there can be and like how it can be used by teachers and students, I think from what we've seen has been really helpful. Because if you have like teachers who are using like a bunch of different platforms and like, oh, in this platform it's like structured this way, and then in another platform it's like a different structure, and then oh, this third platform has like this sort of limitation, like it can make it just a lot harder to have those conversations about what really matters and like what is really impactful. So yeah, that's awesome. That's amazing. Yeah, and then Dion, you mentioned that Bruno is from your school. I don't know if Bruno wants to add anything or share anything there.
Yeah, I'm not sure if he's on the call, but it would be great to have him talk. He's usually not shy, so if he's here, I'm sure he'll talk. But I'd love to hear from his perspective, I can say it from an ed tech perspective of rolling it out, but as a math teacher in the school, he's gone through that process from the very beginning.
Yeah.
Maybe he's not here, unfortunately. There he is. Hi, Bruno. I'd love your opinion because I can talk by ed tech talk, but you're in the trenches.
No, I actually wasn't sure when I joined this. I thought I was going to talk a little bit more about actually using Flint a little bit more, but it's been interesting to listen. But as a science teacher, not math, as a science teacher, we've been exploring a little bit in grade 10 science, a little bit with different ideas and using it to make some lesson plans, and it's been kind of useful, as well as even just asking for feedback sometimes on opinions, just if you're not totally sure, like just trying to simplify it. I've been enjoying it a lot more than I had the previous platform it used. Still lots to learn, but yeah.
Yeah, awesome. I guess, have you been able to like have conversations with your fellow teachers? What has that looked like?
Yeah, like the grade 10 department, science department, the three of us have been talking about different things. One guy actually tried to have his students use it for their science research this year. So we've been trying different things with it, just see what works and all that.
Awesome. Yeah, that's good to hear. Okay. Those were all of the shareouts that I had planned at least. I don't know if anyone here has like questions for the group or anything else you want to add to this big conversation on how to manage AI in schools.
No, yeah. If you are currently running a Flint pilot, please feel free to ask any questions that you might have. I'm looking at the attendee list here, and I see we have Hadni from Stanford American International School. I know she's been taking a look into a pilot at Flint. I know Roseanne is at Canadian International School Guangzhou. Their school is currently piloting Flint right now. If any of you guys have any questions regarding how to run a pilot or your current pilot at your school, either for us from the Flint team or any of these power users that are here as well, feel free to ask away.
Yeah, go ahead, Lee.
Sorry, I know it's about to wrap up, but I just want to ask you guys, have you ever thought Korea is the huge market for your service? Really? And then do you offer the multi-language features so that we can, or our student can switch the language anytime they want? Just like other services. It's like using technologies has been booming here for years. So very famous edtech services, they are very passionately doing their jobs to grab our attentions. But through this very ideal meeting today, accidentally, I think I joined today as the beginner user. So, but I've been thinking about why don't you guys take a look at our, the Korean market a little more, and then think about the better services for the Korean teachers. Then you can get better benefit from us.
So,
Yeah.
Lee, I will mention that actually one of our co-founders is Korean. He's from Seoul. So we do very much have a strong influence in Korea. We've got probably a dozen schools now in Korea as well. So very much a part of our culture at Flint.
Oh, really?
Really. Jinso, yes.
Yeah.
He's our founding engineer.
Is he in charge of the all for Korean public schools?
We don't really work with public schools yet, but that is something that we're looking into. I know.
Maybe foreign schools.
Yeah. We mostly work with the private and independent schools. But there's a lot of teachers because teachers can use Flint for free on their own. So if the teacher is wanting to use Flint, but the school is like slow to adopt, you can create your own account and use Flint completely for free with your students too.
Yeah, to clarify, if you're at a public school, that does not mean you cannot use Flint. It's free for everyone. So you can go and make an account right now.
Yeah, sure, I know.
Yeah.
But I've been talking about my students. They need the language used. Yeah, that's why.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Dion, did you want to add to that actually?
Yeah, I was going to say I met Jinso actually last November at a conference in Bangkok. So that's how I got introduced to Flint. We're actually hosting a conference here at Chadwick International that's open to anyone in Korea. It's called Korkos, Korcos. It's a not-for-profit organization. You're welcome to come. Flint is one of our gold sponsors, so hopefully we'll have some people from Flint here and we'll have some sessions on Flint. I will be showcasing Flint as part of a session that I will be leading. So come over and hopefully maybe you'll meet someone from Flint and definitely learn more about. And then the conference itself is also going to focus on sort of the bridge between AI and human relationships. So, yeah. October 18th. Please come.
Great. Yeah, awesome. I dropped a link in the chat. Hopefully that's to the right page. But yeah, we're very excited to be working with Dion on that too. Yeah. Oh, and just to clarify, like Flint can speak in multiple languages, but I feel like you're probably talking about like can the interface be in Korean? Flint is like web-based, so if there are any like built-in translation. I know like Google Chrome automatically translates things, so you could see if that works well for if students are like not quite as versed in English yet. Yeah, but if you have any questions about that later on, feel free to reach out to us too. I'll just go ahead and wrap up this session since we are a little bit over time. Yeah, directly after the session, or maybe the automatic email has already sent, you'll get the links to all these slides. And in these slides, actually, there's a couple more share out pieces from other schools. Like I asked Gabe from STS about, what his pilot setup looked like, what went well, what would he do differently, and what actually like got teachers' attention. And then I asked the same questions to Sarah and Sydney from Oberoi International School in India, and they recorded this whole video on their journey as well with Flint. And yeah, some of the resources that I mentioned throughout the call with like the policy library, courses, additional stuff, that's also included in the slides. Oh, I forgot to update this, but the next session that we'll have is how to use Flint for summer work and reading. And that should be next week. And you all should get an email about when that is scheduled. But yeah, all recordings will be posted on our website here. As someone who came to the session, you'll also get the recording directly in your email when it's available. And yeah, that's everything. Here we have like the calendar for upcoming events. And then if you're not yet a part of the Flint community, I would also highly recommend joining there. That's where you can connect with other teachers using Flint, and like there's like spaces to ask questions and spaces to share out what you've been building with Flint that you're really proud of too. And yeah, let me know if you all have any questions or comments. I'll stay on for a couple minutes, but thank you all for joining me. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Lulu.
Thank you.
Thank you.